This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome to Jumping Bomb Audio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Jumping Bomb Audio, a podcast all about Joshi Pro Wrestling. I'm Aaron Bentley. I'm joined by my co-host, Taylor Mainberg. What's going on, Taylor?
Hi, good to be here. Glad to join you again for another exciting episode. A lot of Stardom to talk about this week.
Yeah, I feel like we've mostly been a Stardom podcast for like 2 months now.
Well, when it's the promotion that runs the most shows, that's sometimes the way it goes.
Yeah, well, it works out for me. I'm much more knowledgeable about Stardom than anything else, so it helps me. But this also is like an episode where, I mean, since we got kind of derailed by COVID and coming back, it's like this is an episode where we have several, well, maybe not several, but a handful of like really good shows to talk about. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, we got some big shows that we mentioned last week but didn't air until the past 2 weeks. So we have to talk about those. And based on past experience and some comments from you, Aaron, I think we're going to have some interesting debates about some of these shows and matches that are coming up.
That's what I like to do. I like to provoke debate with you, Taylor. And but no, we just have some differences of opinion when it comes to like very important stylistic things. And so there's nothing we can do about it, really.
And that's what makes the whole thing interesting. If we just agreed with each other, that would probably be a very boring show.
Yes. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to talk about on this show, the 5-star Grand Prix, of course, the finals. We're recording this on Saturday. So as of recording, there were 5 matches up. So we haven't seen the whole show, but we'll talk about the results. We're going to talk about the Oz Academy August 28th show, Diana's August 30th show. Then we're going to talk about a lot of other shows, in short form in our Spark Notes section. We're going to answer some listener questions. So hopefully you got a question in if you wanted. And if not, we'll do this again in the future. And of course, the shows that are coming up. If you want to keep up with us on Twitter, we're at JBombAudio. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Taylor is at Tay Mambo. Please subscribe to the show so you get it on Mondays when it comes out. Give us a rating, give us a review if you use the Apple Podcasts app. And if you'd like to donate to the show, you can do so by going to redcircle.com/shows/jumping-bomb-audio. All right, first thing we're going to do is talk about the 5-star Grand Prix. So it's over. And the big winner of the 5-star, Utami Hayashishita. She defeated Himeka in the finals, and I would just like to say that that's the final that I predicted and the result that I predicted.
You're a genius.
I am. That's true. Thank you for acknowledging that.
You're welcome.
Well, let's just start there. Let's start there. Then we'll go back and talk about what else happened on this card. But apart from acknowledging my genius, what do you think about Utami being the winner here and going on? She announced after that she will face the winner of Mayu Iwatani and Shuri, which is going to happen on the October 3rd Yokohama show. So what do you think about Utami winning this tournament?
I think it's a good decision. Someone who is near, I think as we've talked about before, sort of near the top of the card, but not at the top of the card. It's a good win. Sort of one tier below the sort of big hitters, a Mayu who's already champion, or someone like a Momo, or something like that. So I think it's good. We had talked about beating Himeka in the finals. We had thought that, I think in the last at least the last show, if not even the show before, someone who could get a boost by getting into the finals, but also be all right with losing that final match. So overall, a very sort of, and I think sort of the whole tournament for the most part, very logically, I mean, looking back on it now, sort of very logically, not a huge surprise, not someone sort of not an out of left field pick, at least for me. So yeah, makes total sense. A well-booked show, and hopefully it leads to a good title match.
Yeah, I mean, the Himeka thing, I don't know that it would have felt out of left field, but certainly a surprise if at the beginning of the tournament I told you that she would score 11 points and make it to the final. So, that was interesting. And that's something they often do in these, is kind of not who you would expect ends up in the final to lose to the ultimate winner. But I think the tournament demonstrated how important it was for Utami to win this tournament, because I know we talked about it before, that really you have Mayu as the ace. She is the only person in the promotion, for my money, who melds together being a great in-ring worker and also having the star charisma. She's just the only star in the promotion. I think by the end of this tournament, and I'll be interested to see if you agree with this, that Julia has announced herself as putting together the charisma that she needs and being on Mayu's heels for being that second star in the promotion. I don't think she's there yet, but I think, like, for me, after this tournament, there's no question in my mind that Julia is a huge star who's going to help the promotion, get back to where it needs to be. But Utami is someone who is obviously already a great worker, but doesn't really have that charisma, doesn't really exude stardom. And I mean stardom in like the not the name of the promotion version. So I think having her win this, frankly, I would probably go ahead and put the title on her and really try to run with her and see if she can get where she needs to be. But she's somebody who they desperately need to get up there, because if you look at this tournament, you see that they have people on the come up, right? We saw Micah get a huge push in this tournament. We saw people like Sayakamitani, who's, below that, Ozumi, but they were getting highlighted, and you saw that they can be really good in the future. But they're going to have to bridge that gap. Unless Kairi Hojo comes back, they have to bridge that gap between the stars they have now and the stars of the future. And Utami is certainly a great way to do that.
Yeah, and I think that she's probably looking, even before the tournament, if you were to look at the list, sort of the person you would think of as closest to that level without being there would probably be Utami. Obviously, you have people like Momo, who held the title for a long time, and Jungle, who seemingly are sort of in a way, feel like they're on the other side of the hill. Not that they're going to go down into the opening contest or anything like that, but they, to me, are the only two other people close to that level, but they feel like they already sort of bumped against the ceiling and are not on the upward trajectory anymore. And then you have someone like Shuri. You don't know. She's still technically a freelancer. So there are questions of, is she going to stick around for any certain amount of time? And then sort of that next level is a lot of people, as you mentioned, Micah or someone like Himeka or Ozumi, sort of people who are coming up, but still sort of feel to me as if they're firmly sort of still in the middle, at least for me, and not to that level where winning the tournament gets them into this top level if they were to go on, win the tournament, and maybe win the title. So yeah, I agree with you about Julia. I think that, to me, she's a little bit more interesting now that she's gone into this tournament. She didn't get to the final. She lost a few matches. To me, is much more interesting than this person who was just saying, oh, I'm here, and oh, by the way, I've won every single one of my matches. There is a little bit of an interesting story to that you can tell for a while, but after a certain period, I think you have to move sort of off that story and into sort of a new and different story that puts her into the official position that she'll be in the company. So I agree with you on Julia. I think probably she's on that Utami sort of level. We're not quite at the top yet, but certainly very close and rising.
Okay, let's go through the matches from this show. And then if we have maybe comments on the people in each match, like their tournament or, just anything about where they stand right now, I think this is a good place to talk about it. So the first match we had Shuri defeating Micah. And basically the idea here was that they were on, I believe they both had the same level of points, but they both had 2 matches on this show. So Micah needed to win both her matches. She could win the tournament, or she could win her block if she won both matches. Shuri also could win the block if she won both her matches. So Shuri gets the win. I mean, you kind of covered it with Shuri. Great worker. We just kind of don't know what her status is. If she's going to be around enough to really be a push commodity. As for Micah, got a push that I did not expect in this tournament. The idea of her being in control of her own destiny going into the final night is not something I would have ever predicted. But I think she also rose to the occasion. I thought she was very good in this tournament.
Yeah, I think that she's definitely taken leaps and bounds in ring. I think especially this match, which is already out. So I did watch this match. I thought it was really good, a really fun match. I still am a little hesitant on the sort of charisma personality side of things, because to me, even in her own group, in Donna Del Mundo, she feels like the least defined person in that group in terms of who she is outside of just sort of like, hey, I'm in this group and I'm going to beat you. But the in-ring definitely greatly improved for this tournament. Still considering, I think she's still under 50 matches in her whole career. So definitely improving. That's a good sign. I just think that they need that sort of hook into her personality, whatever it is. For someone like Himeka, it's sort of this sarcastic side that developed to Himeka. So we'll see what happens there. But I think a very strong tournament. And as you said, probably the biggest, to me, the biggest surprise of the whole tournament.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And probably the biggest, Himeka probably gets the biggest elevation from where she was before to after, but Micah, I think, is a more surprising elevation. So, well, obviously, it's just like a big tournament for Donna Del Mundo, I guess. Next up was Sayakamitani defeating Starlight Kid. Kamitani got off to a pretty slow start in the tournament, but then she got a nice little run there at the end. I think she was highlighted pretty well and got to show off what she can do. She's still, very inexperienced and kind of does a little too much at times, but I think that's okay. You can turn that down more easily than turning it up. And Kid, I'm like the low guy on Kid generally, and I thought she was excellent in this tournament. I thought she did a really good job.
That's funny. I was about to ask you about that because we've talked about this on the podcast. And I don't know if I'm the high man on Kid, but I've always thought that she's really good on sort of the same level as Ozumi, who gets a lot of hype. I thought she was really good. I thought Saya is good. I still think, as you said, Aaron, still needs a little bit of time, which just comes with that she's young. She just started. Still feels a little bit to me, she's so athletic, but still feels to me like the movements in the ring are very sort of delineated still. I'm going to run the ropes and then I'm going to do, cartwheel, and then I'm going to do a drop kick. Whereas there will probably become a moment, hopefully, and I would imagine this would happen, where it all sort of becomes one string of things instead of this feeling of I'm doing a move, I'm doing a different move, I'm doing another move, sort of not stuttering, but they feel sort of very separated now. And so she just needs some more time to develop sort of the ability to smooth it all out and make it all sort of one piece of, the match.
Yeah, I think that's fair. She also needs to stop screaming to sell.
Oh, I never mind. I never mind the screaming. I think partially I've sort of, it's just become such a part of Joshi to me. That sometimes I watch things and other people watch and they're like, this screaming. I'm like, oh, I don't even really think about the screaming anymore.
I don't know. I just think she's on another level of screaming. The other thing I'll say about Starlight Kid is I feel like, she ends this tournament on 2 points. I feel like she and Momo are like the big losers of the Bushi Road transition. Like, it seems like Rossi was much higher on both of them than Bushi Road is. And it just feels like she's really slotted way below a lot of people now. Where I thought, it feels like Ozumi is on the upswing and is going to get that big push sooner rather than later. And I'm not sure I feel the same way about Kid anymore.
Yeah, it is a little bit, you look and you go, uh-oh. But, she is still very, very young. And hopefully, knock on wood, you never know in Joshi. Hopefully, we'll have many years ahead of her. So you would hope that, if it doesn't happen now or next year, it would happen the year after. But yeah, I would agree. But I think I'm at the point now where I'm not super worried about it. But we'll see what happens, I guess.
After that was Julia defeating Death Yama-san. We talked about Julia's tournament, but I basically think she's just settled in. She feels so much more comfortable in the promotion and with herself and with her character. Death, man, she just did the same match every night, which I guess is fine. This was probably my second favorite death match of the tournament. I was doing the daily audio updates on the Everything You Late Patreon, and I came up with this idea, Taylor. Let me know what you think about it. The queen of the death matches. It's a tournament where you wrestle, every wrestler on the roster wrestles Death Yama-san, and we decide at the end who had the best death match.
It's a great idea.
The Mayu and death match was really good, I thought. And this was probably my second favorite one. Just, I don't know, seeing Julia do a straight comedy match was funny, and she did well in it, I thought. So this was really the match that cemented for me that Julia is a big, huge star.
Yeah, I also did. I sort of also enjoyed this match. The Mayu match was great. I enjoyed Julia adjusting the T-shirt on her own face in the middle of the match to make sure that she couldn't see. But sort of very casually, she's supposed to be fighting off the shirt that Death is putting over her face, and very casually just reaches up and adjusts it. Reminiscent of another match this week, the Ivelisse Thunder Rosa match from AEW, where you just sort of break kayfabe to adjust whatever needs adjusting.
This match, I think, was slightly more cooperative than that match.
Yes. Death Yama-san is interesting. I do sort of enjoy the gimmick. There is a part of me that sort of wishes that it would have been Kaori wrestling these matches, because I think she's super underrated. She does a lot of these sort of comedy matches, type matches, especially here in Stardom, where it's almost exclusively comedy. But I think she's really underrated. I think she's really good in the ring. Of course, the issue with that is then she isn't sort of this easy lost post that you can give people 2 points with. So, you saw a lot of very similar matches, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, not only is it easy to beat her, but I feel like it didn't matter as much in this tournament, but it's kind of a night off, for the other person. I think that helps as far as wear and tear on the body. Not as much in this tournament, but they did do 3 shows in 2 days. So, that probably helped. But yeah, she serves her purpose. I didn't mind it. It's just and the matches are 3 minutes long, so it's no big deal. Next up, Mayu Iwatani defeated Tam Nakano. The big issue here was the loser would be eliminated from contention for the block. The winner would still have a chance to win based on the Himeka Konami match that would come up next. This was a really good match, I thought, and frankly, Tom ends up becoming probably my in-ring MVP of the tournament. When I went back and looked at my top 10 matches that I'd ranked for the tournament, Tom is in 4 or 5 of them. I just thought she was really good. Mayu was obviously good. Basically every match she was in was good or great. So not much more you can say about Mayu, but impressed with Tom in this tournament.
Yeah, I think Tom doesn't get not a super amount of opportunities. She's sort of been firmly slotted in the middle of the pecking order. But I feel like every time she gets opportunities like this, obviously in this tournament she had quite a lot of opportunities. She really delivers. I think she's very underrated in ring wise, and has a fun personality. I mean, is a fun wrestler to watch. So to me, it was a reminder to me that, oh yeah, she is very good in the ring. I agree with you. She had a number of good matches in this tournament. And as you said, Mayu is Mayu. As we said, to kick this off, she is the ace of the promotion and does what she does. She goes out there and delivers pretty much every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all the matches that I've seen. I know you've seen the Himika Konami match, right? But
I did. It dropped. It's a 10-minute match, and it dropped 10 minutes before we started recording this.
But I was so mad that it came out when it did that I was just like, fuck it, I'll watch it later. So, but what I do know is that Himika defeated Konami. If Konami had won the match, she would have won the block. If there had been no, I don't think. Yeah, that is true. Konami would have won the block. If they drew, Mayu would have won the block. But Himika wins. Completes, just a great tournament. Well, it doesn't complete because she moves on to the finals, but a great tournament for Himika, big elevation for her. Konami was also really good in this tournament. It's funny. I feel like, I'm complaining a lot about they don't really have a lot of stars, and that's true, but everybody's good in this promotion.
Yes. I mean, there's certainly not a lot of wrestlers in this promotion where you would say, but yeah, it feels like a sort of a team with a lot of nice pieces. I mean, I watch a lot of basketball. You think about teams that, have like 3 good players, but no great players. And then they get to the finals and they lose always in the second round or something like that. It feels like that to me, like they're missing the necessary sort of, here is our group of stars who we can send out and will deliver matches, who will draw in fans consistently, obviously besides Mayu, but it's hard to do it with just one person in that star category.
I was going to say they're like the early LeBron Cavs because like Mayu is LeBron, but I don't think the rest of the roster is as bad as those Cavs teams.
Yeah, that would be correct. I mean, I think of it sort of, obviously Mayu's the outlier, but like almost like those Grizzlies teams when they had Mike Conley and Marc Gasol. It was a lot of players. You're like, these players are really good, and a lot of teams would probably really like to have these players. But there was no one who, when it's time to go, and you're facing a tough team, you're in the playoffs, where you go, this is the person who's going to put the team on his back and deliver. Now, obviously, you have Mayu, but in wrestling, you need more than one for a number of reasons. A lot being that you can't send Mayu out every single show to main event because people will get bored of that. So it's good to have sort of a group of them who you can mix and match, send up and down the card and things like that. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought Himika had a really good tournament. I think that there's still some things that I occasionally see that I'm like, we talked before, the facial expressions sometimes to me are a little bit odd, a little bit like your screaming issue. My issue was sometimes the facial expressions are out of this world, which is very weird. But Konami is in that same place with Tom, people who are not at the top of the card, sort of in the middle, but still super talented and can go out and give you good matches.
Next up was Ozumi defeating Micah. This is a strange result for me because Micah could win this match and still the winner of Utami and Shuri would be the winner of the block. I guess because they wanted to do the draw. That's what happened. We haven't gotten to that yet, and I haven't seen the match yet. So I guess that's why they did that. But, rough for Micah to have, such a great tournament and then lose both their matches here. We talked about Micah. Ozumi, I thought, also had a really strong tournament. They tried her out in some main events. And, I kind of went into that Utami Ozumi main event being like, this really doesn't have the star power. And still, it was like a really good match, but I'm not sure that it was a main event at this point. But I think it's interesting that a lot of people do tie Ozumi and Kid together for good reason. But to me, Ozumi is like potential best in the world candidate. And she didn't steer me off of that in this tournament.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see. I agree with you. I thought she had a good tournament, but I'm interested to see what her future holds. It feels sort of to me, and I don't know if this is my pessimism sneaking up on me. To me, Ozumi, I'm so fearful that she becomes sort of the next Jungle, where she sort of moves up the card, and then there's a point where they sort of say, okay, we're good because, we have XYZ people, or we're going to bring in these people from some other promotion. Because, as we said, there's a lot of good wrestlers, but the key is there's a lot of people in this promotion. And it seems pretty clear from something we'll talk about in a few minutes that they're not going to stop bringing more people into the promotion. So someone on, that we've talked about or that we'll talk about in a couple minutes is probably going to hit a roadblock and not get as high as we think they will get. And I am fearful, for whatever reason. I don't have really a definitive reason in my brain. I am fearful that will be Ozumi.
My Ozumi fear is that she's small, and the Bushiroad thing seems to be slanted toward the taller wrestlers. So I'm worried that they're not going to view her as a main eventer in that way. And you're right. She could become like a Kiona style, where she's like a really good upper mid-carder, but can never get higher than that. But that'll be, to me, that's a misusage of her, and will be, not getting what all you can get out of Ozumi. Of course, she's only 18 now, or almost 18. So, we'll get a sense for how good she can really be. Of course, there's also some talk that Bushiroad wants out of this agreement. So maybe we don't have to worry about Bushiroad's whims at some point in the future. But yeah, we'll see what becomes of Ozumi. Hopefully, I just hope she sticks around in Joshi more than anything, because she's very, very good. Next up was Saya Iida defeating Natsuko Torres. So Saya gets off the Schneid, gets 2 points in the tournament. We'll start talking about Saya, who I think had a very good tournament. She replaced Saki Kashima, who probably had COVID and was out for a bit. And I think she really rewarded that decision, and I hope made an impression with people who have decision-making power in this promotion. It's a stacked promotion as far as, I don't know how high she can move up, but I hope she gets more of a chance based on her performance here. Natsuko, man, there's just not much to say. It was all her, not all, but almost all her matches were bad. When she had good matches, it was with people who are really good. She had a good match with Shuri. She had a good match with Kiona. But other than that, it was a rough go. Yeah, I think Iida had a good tournament. I think I'm sort of comfortable with her now sort of being in that lower mid. I talked about a lot of people who seem to be moving up. And I think she's at the point, she's sort of new enough, young enough that she can sort of hang around in that sort of lower middle for the time being and let some things happen. Maybe people move up the card. Maybe some people move down the card. Maybe people leave. We don't know what's going to happen. I think she's someone, she has time. We're not in a rush to, shoot her up the card. That she could probably be she's a fun addition to the roster, and she could sort of slot in that middle position, lower middle position, and be very good. And then when it's time, when you have a need for someone else, when she has a little bit more seasoning, you can move her up the roster a little bit. But I think it was good. I think that she was a good replacement. Tora, I've said it on this podcast before. I don't get it. It's also a thing in tournaments like this. It always really throws me off or annoys me when you have sort of these heels, and the whole thing is we're heels and we cheat. There were multiple matches where they cheated directly in front of the referee and were disqualified, which to me, in
sort of kayfabe of the whole thing makes no sense. It doesn't matter if you're a heel or you're a face or whatever you're doing or whatever your gimmick is. The point of the tournament is to win as many matches as you can so you can get to the finals and win. And cheating in front of the referee gets you disqualified and loses you points. So it just ends up making them look silly because it seems like, well, what are you doing in the tournament if you're just going around, cheating in front of the referee, getting disqualified, if you're not trying to win? You just seem like a dummy to me. So to me, that's the biggest disconnect, is they're trying to sort of make her this, it has this correspondence to what we'll talk about in a bit, this sort of Oz Academy, Mayumi Ozaki style of, a heel unit that's always running in and cheating. But the rules of the Oz Academy universe are different than the rules of the Stardom universe, which is all about, we're a great wrestling promotion with big high quality matches, and we're all about, who's the best of the best. And then you have this person running in with chains and chairs and things like that, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that. The thing that really pissed me off about this, because I realized early on what was happening, is well, I guess I just have to live with this. But they would, Saki would attack somebody outside, or Natsuko would use the chain outside, and it's like in Stardom, everybody's around the ring. So when you're attacking someone outside the ring, the people in her unit are also right there. Why don't they help? Why don't they get involved in some way? That drove me insane. There was one where I think it was somebody else from Queen's Quest who was getting attacked, and Utami was literally kneeled next to it happening. It's well, what's the explanation that she doesn't want to get involved to help? So yeah, the whole thing annoyed me. It was bad. It brought everything down. Yeah. I tweeted this out, but I'm the Ozumi promo where she's like, I don't care that you're a heel or whatever. It's just exactly how I feel about it. All right. In a match that I deemed on the Patreon as the battle of who can matter less, Jungle Kyona versus Momo Watanabe, and it went to a fucking no contest because Oedo Tai interfered. I don't know who matters less. Who do you think matters less out of these two right now? Wait. Have you seen the news about Momo?
Is there new news?
There's new news, my friend.
Oh, boy. Breaking news on this podcast, which by the time it's released will be old news.
You've probably seen this, right? The possibility that Momo's going to a different promotion?
Oh, I thought people were just joking about that.
So, well, let's say this about the match first. So, Oedo Tai interferes. This is tied into the TCS Oedo Tai. If TCS loses, they disband a match that's going to be on the September 29 Korakuen. Is that right?
I think the 28th.
September 28th Korakuen. That's right. And then B. Priestley was part of Oedo Tai here. Of course, she's back in the country, and she challenged Momo to a match for the October 3rd Yokohama show. And of course, if you remember, B was in Queen's Quest, attacked Momo at a Korakuen, 5 years ago at this point. After Momo had a match with Mayu, as I recall. And that's how she left Queen's Quest and joined Oedo Tai. So they've got a little story, and that's going to be for the now vacant SWA title that Jamie Hayter had. Okay. After this, Takumi Iroha tweeted at Mayu Iwatani and was like, hey, basically, I want to have a match with you, Mayu. Momo quote tweeted Takumi and said, wait. How about first you have a match with me instead of Mayu? And Darren on Twitter, their at is very long and hard for me to read, so I'm not going to repeat it, but their name is Darren, and I retweeted this, so you can see it on my timeline. This was a rough translation of what Takumi Iroha said. Long time no see, Momo-chan. First of all, add an honorific when you say my name. Very funny. I'd like to see how much stronger you've gotten. You can't take back the words you said. Why don't you come to Marvelous? What do you say, Mr. Rossi? So, Momo might be going to Marvelous to face Takumi Iroha.
That would be a good match and a better use of Momo than whatever they're doing with her in Stardom.
Yeah, but it's like, I would assume Iroha doesn't like start this whole thing without knowing where it's going. And obviously there's some relationship there. She came in and wrestled Mayu, obviously. So what would be to gain here by sending Momo? And maybe this is just like the make good for Iroha coming in to do the match before.
Yeah, it could be that Marvelous said, okay, we sent Takumi to you, who lost to Mayu, right? Was that jeez. That is another thing that feels like it was 5 years ago.
No, Iroha won, I believe.
Did she? Okay. Jeez.
I gotta look it up. That was forever ago.
It could be that they've decided on something where they need someone to lose, and so they said, well, why don't you take don't take Mayu, because maybe Mayu, I'm assuming at this point, Mayu wins the match against Shuri on the third, and then whenever that Utami match happens, but that might be happening maybe after the whatever this match would be, and maybe they're saying, well, we don't want to send Mayu and have Mayu lose while she's still holding our title. So we'll send you Momo and you can beat Momo if you want. That could be the reasoning, especially with it happening on a Marvelous show, or supposedly happening on a Marvelous show.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be part of it.
Iroha did win that match, by the way.
She did.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
She was
when was that? When was that match? When did that match happen?
February 15.
Great.
The semi-main event was Arisa Hoshiki defending the white belt against B. Priestley.
Wow. That feels...
Yeah, well, this was the match where
long ago.
Sareee was supposed to be the challenger, and then she couldn't make it, so they got Iroha. Yeah, and that,
Who, by the way, speaking of that, and that could be a part of this, that match, supposedly there's something going on there because Sareee was in, I think, Weekly Pro talking about wanting to face Mayu. So it could also be a thing where they don't want to have Mayu in all of these, sort of outside special matches, and affect her drawing power or something like that. So they're like, well, we'll give you Momo because we're going to use Mayu to face Sareee either in Stardom or somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, I guess, to see Momo doing something. But yeah, I don't know. I had the sense, around that match he had with Mayu, that they were basically throwing her back down to the bottom and going to let her like build back up. But we'll see if that happens or not. It's sad when you said, I think she's like on the way back down, and she's 20 years old. Jesus Christ.
I don't mean rolling all the way back down the hill, but
yeah.
It's certainly all the, I think you would agree. It certainly doesn't feel like she's on the way up in this company. This company. I mean, it would be hard to be up after you hold the title and you almost, you do all this great stuff. It would be hard to go up again, but it certainly feels like she's dropping very quickly, even off that level where she was.
Yeah, I mean, she set the record for white belt defenses. And held the title for like a year. I think almost exactly a year, actually. So, yeah, it'd be tough, but she's definitely not a top of the card main event player at this point in the promotion. Like, not even close, really.
Yeah, and I think that she's in the worst position now because at least Jungle has this disbands match coming up, which something could happen. I have a feeling what happens, and I guess we could talk about this in the upcoming shows. I have a feeling either Jungle or Konami joins Oedo Tai at the end of that match.
Ooh. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute because I have another thing to pose to you about that.
But that's at least something where it's like, okay, she has something major coming up, whereas Momo, it's sort of like, well, what does Momo have to do now? She has an SWA title match, which, let's be frank about that title. It doesn't matter at all.
Well, and she has to lose because the SWA title has to be defended against someone who's of a different nationality than you. And if Momo wins, there's nobody to face. Because there's no gaijins.
I didn't even think about that. They just do like New Japan does and just have two people face off against each other in title matches for like 6 months at a time.
Yeah, I guess they could do that. Yeah, if Momo wins, they're doing a rematch that B wins.
Yeah, B versus Momo. Momo versus B. B versus Momo.
Yeah, so presumably B is winning that. I'll be interested to see how she's kind of slotted in the company now. She obviously was a red belt champion for a long time. And then a tag champion for some time. So,
I mean, frankly, I know she's, very divisive for a number of reasons, but she comes back and is immediately the best wrestler in that unit in Oedo Tai by a long shot.
Yeah, sure.
So I would imagine she'll be given something, although who knows with Oedo Tai anymore. Which I'll talk about in a second because I have a separate rant to go on, unrelated to the 5-star.
Okay, can't wait. The last match we'll talk about because we've already talked about the final, Shuri versus Utami Hayashishita, and they went to a time limit draw, 20-minute time limit draw. I guess we've talked about both of their tournaments, so not much to say. I'll be interested to see that match. Fascinating that Utami did a time limit draw and then immediately beat Himika in 10 minutes after that. So, poor Himika. But that's basically the 5-star. Is there anything else you want to say about the 5-star before we move on?
No, I think it was... I think by far the strongest shows of the tournament were the ones at Korakuen. I thought the middle number of shows... Now, of course, they were sort of put behind the 8 ball a little with the cancellations and things like that. But I thought the middle shows were a little bit... weaker, not bad shows, but certainly not blowing my hair back in any way. And I think indicative of what we've talked about, which is, a lot of good wrestlers, not a lot of big stars. But I thought all 3 of the Korakuen shows were very strong. The closing show of what I've seen so far, all the matches I've really enjoyed. So overall, I thought a good tournament.
Yeah, I basically agree. It was a tournament that I enjoyed a lot, but just didn't have the highs that you kind of expect out of Stardom. But I haven't seen, the top 2 matches from this show. Perhaps they are very high highs. But I mean, basically, I think my top rated match is like 4 stars in this tournament. I don't think I got higher than 4 stars on anything.
Yeah, I was around the same thing. I think I had maybe 1 or 2 4 stars, and I think I was a bit lower because I heard some people who were a bit higher than me. I had a couple 4 stars, but other than that, they were sort of in that 3, 3.25, 3.5 range pretty consistently.
I'm a little higher than you because I probably had 5 or 6 4-star matches, but yeah, nothing that really got anywhere close to like a match of the year level match, which you usually can expect from the 5-star. But again, the final and that Shuri Utami draw could obviously be really good matches. So we'll see. Now, one person who wasn't in the 5-star, who was replaced, I think you have something to say about her, which is Saki Kashima.
Yeah, and I feel like I've said this a couple times on previous episodes, but I just want to talk about this again. What is going on with Saki Kashima? Now, obviously, she had whatever she had, possibly had COVID, and she was taken out of the tournament. But it just seems, what has been the point? She joined Oedo Tai, and started very well. I actually looked this up because I was so confused about this. She started 9-1 to begin after she turned heel. She was 9-1. Now, I think all 9 of those victories were in multi-person tag matches, either 6 or 8-person tag matches. Then she faced Mayu in that lumberjack match and lost. And since that moment, after that match, she's been 3-10, including going 1-5 in singles matches, with her only victory in a singles match being over Hina, which is obviously someone who's very, very low on the totem pole. I just don't understand. You have B back now, I guess, so it's a little bit different, but you have 3 people in this group that's supposedly this very fearful heel group. You have Tora, who did okay point-wise. in the 5-star. You have Kashima, who seemingly can't beat anyone unless she's in a tag with other people. And then you have Natsu, who's largely comedy. Like, I just don't understand. You turn her, and then it's like, oh, did you just turn her to face Mayu one time and then sort of become a geek in this faction that doesn't really mean anything anymore? It's so confusing to me, and I can't figure it out. And they've made her into this, not that she was a world beater before, but now it's like, who, she faces off in these singles matches. Who cares? We know she's going to lose. I don't know. It's just very frustrating to me. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And it seems like you turned her, she started strong, and there was something you probably could have done with this, and now all of a sudden you can't do anything with it because now you've made her into a big loser.
On the other hand, like to defend Saki's whole thing, she was basically a huge loser with no upside in Stars. They turned her. She got a main event against Mayu, and now she's back to where she was. So she got something out of it. It's just like she's a non-entity. She's a nothing.
But then what was the point? If she's a non-entity before and now she's a non-entity, and she got one main event out of it, which through no fault of Stardom's had no fans.
Right. That is the downside of my argument.
Had no fans.
It drew zero fans.
It drew nothing at all. You've essentially just sort of rearranged you've rearranged the furniture. The time when you turn her, you can say, well, she didn't mean much before. Why don't you try and make her something? Now that she's a heel, you've given her this sort of fresh coat of paint, and you're just like, oh, well, we gave her this fresh coat of paint to have one single match, and now she'll just be a loser again.
Well, frankly, she's not very good, Taylor. So
I think she's better than some people think she is.
I'm trying to.
I'm not saying she should beat everyone, and part of this has to do with the fact it was dealt a bad hand with with whatever this health thing was, because she would have been in the tournament. Now, of course, she probably would have been in the Ida position of getting 2 points or maybe 4 points or something like that. But I don't know. It just seems like, why are we wasting our time with this?
Well, that's my point, is I don't see why we're wasting our time with Saki. I mean, good on her. I don't know if she has a lot of merch, so maybe she's a merch mover. I don't know. But to me, like, she's probably the worst wrestler in the company that's over 18.
All right. I mean, it's a high bar. It's a high bar, so I will agree. I might agree with you there.
Well, your argument's going to be Natsuko, right?
Well, I think that Natsuko could be. I think that she is held back by this whole thing that she's doing of, I have a chain and I'm beating you up with the chain and I'm cheating. I think that she has the potential to be good. She's just in a position now where she's doing this thing that holds her back and prevents her, I think, from being better.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
So, yeah, and I would, the whole thing has been, we have no Gaijin. Oedo ties down to 3 people. Why not try and do something and see if you can, give her a couple meaningful wins and see if something happens. If the fans get really excited or something like that. But now they've done it where they're like, oh yeah, she's a loser. And now you've essentially buried her back. And that's the end of the story.
Yeah, basically. Well, we'll see. I think Oedo Tai is about to undergo some sort of makeover, so we'll see what happens. All right, let's move on to the only big news story of the week, really. Natsumi Maki and Mina Shirakawa are leaving Tokyo Joshi Pro. The news story seemed to be that, I don't know, did Tokyo Joshi Pro decide not to renew their contracts, or it was a mutual decision? Not really sure. It kind of feels like they're getting the boot.
Yeah, it felt like they're getting the boot. And this also ties in, to go back to Stardom briefly, Julia did announce on October 3rd that there will be XXXX joining Donna Del Mundo. So I guess it is possible that one of these two could be, quadruple X. There's also a few other possibilities. Reika Saiki could join, or maybe someone we're not expecting. People have been talking about Kairi Hojo. It would seem weird to have Kairi join as the fourth member of Donna del Mundo, but I guess it's possible. But yeah, it will be interesting to see where those two end up. I feel like we've said that a bunch with people leaving, and oftentimes they either don't go, they don't go many places, or they just end up in Stardom. So we'll see if that's the case again. I know Meena, I think, did tweet something about going to Osaka next week, which is where Stardom has one of their shows. Don't know if that's a calculated ploy to sort of drum up interest or if there's something there, but it'll be interesting to see. I think Maki will be the more interesting one because I think in ring she's super talented. I'm actually fairly surprised at the fact that Tokyo Joshi didn't really push her more. When she first came in the company, I remember thinking that she would be very quickly at the top of the cards. She had that good series of matches with Miyu Yamashita this year. But really, other than that, wasn't all that involved in the top storylines in the company. So it'll be interesting to see where she goes. I think she would be a strong pickup for a number of Joshi companies.
I feel like I'm insane. I've been talking to people and talking about how good I think Mina Shirakawa is, and I seem to be the only one who thinks that.
I don't think she's bad, to be clear, but I just think Maki in ring.
Oh, yeah, Maki's better, but I think Meena is underrated in ring. She's gotten a lot better.
To me, I think Maki is a sneaky, could be a game. Depending on where she goes, could be a game changer for some companies. I just don't think Meena is that sort of level of possible game changer. I think that she would be a good, signing for a lot of companies, but just sort of not on the level of where I think Maki is.
I agree with that. I think Meena would kind of be a waste in Stardom because she'd kind of just be mired in the middle where a lot of other people are. But obviously she would be likely very popular among the fan base. And so, there could be monetary reasons for bringing her in, apart from the fact that I think she's good. Maki is really good. Maki would fit in Donna del Mundo, I think, because she can be an ass kicker, which I think is kind of the aesthetic of the team. The funny bit that I have is that every X has been bigger than the previous X. And so who's bigger than Himeka who can come in?
How tall is Rebel Kell?
Yes, Rebel Kell is one of the people I thought of. Stacy Keibler also could be an option. I don't know how tall Aja Kong is, but she's certainly bigger than Himeka.
Well, Aja Kong is certainly not coming in because I don't know if it still exists, but I know she and Rossi have not seen eye to eye in the past. So
sure. Just just trying to think of all the possible people who could be.
Is she tall
4X.
though? I don't think she's tall. That's Himeka at the end of the day is also. We're talking about sort of relative tall here.
She's 5'9".
I thought that she was like 5'6".
No, I think Himeka's 5'9".
Oh, interesting.
Tall Saya is 5'6".
Interesting. Okay.
Aja Kong 5'5", according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, that would be certainly be interesting. I'm just trying to imagine Aja Kong interacting with Julia and having Julia be like Aja, go over there.
Let's see. Cage Match says Himeka is 5'8", so
5'8". Okay,
somewhere in that range.
So she is fairly tall.
Yeah, certainly. So I don't know where they're going, I guess is the answer to this. They'd be good anywhere. It's just you kind of my baseline is waiting to see. The first thing I'm going to wait to see is if they show up in Stardom. And after that, I can start to think about where else they might show up, just because I kind of expect people to show up in Stardom.
It does feel like people have either shown up in Stardom or sort of gone general freelance and not done much. It seems like those have really been the two. I'm trying to think of the last person who sort of left the company and went full time with some other company that wasn't Stardom, and I can't even think of any.
No, they've just kind of done freelance stuff. So, yeah,
we'll see, but we'll see if they end up in Stardom. But the more and more people they get in this company, it feels like they're stuff in the middle of this sort of sandwich here.
Yeah,
and something. I just feel like something has to give with this. They've got at least one more person coming in. XXXX.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming Kairi Hojo at some point, even if it's for a short run.
Yeah, I'm assuming now if that's going to be a short run, it might not matter much, and she's going to go right to the top of the.
Oh yeah,
right to the top of the card. So that's different. It just feels like so many of these people are. They come in and they're sort of mid-carders who they have to work up into a higher level in the card, as opposed to we have this person and they're a big star and they can go right to the top.
Yeah.
It just feels like we're stuffing the company with sort of these potential laden upper mid-carders.
I agree. All right, well, let's talk about some other shows that have gone on. Now, they weren't in the last 2 weeks because they happened before, but they just made tape in the last 2 weeks. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Oz Academy show from August 28th. It just aired on the 13th, so we've only been able to see it recently. The first match on the show, Rina Shingaki, Shuri, and Tsubasa Kuragaki versus Mitsuhisa Tsunabe and Maya Yukihi and Yumi Oka. Maya Yukihi won the match when she pinned Rina Shingaki. I thought the funniest thing I thought about this match was that this was during the Stardom quarantine, and Shuri was absolutely not quarantining.
I didn't even think about that. The one thing I thought about this match was I was sort of, because I think Tsunabe is a Pancrase guy, and I don't really know much or anything about him. And I sort of wanted to see him against Shuri, and there really wasn't that much interaction. Now, he was not in the match really much at all. I have a feeling that he sort of was trained on a few things and brought in just to maybe bring in some new fans. But that was sort of the thing I was looking forward to and didn't happen. But other than that, I thought it was an enjoyable enough kickoff to the show.
Yeah, it was all about ref shenanigans. My wife came in during this match and was just like really cracking up at the ref, fast counting for Ozaki-gun and slow counting for the other team. She thought that was very funny.
Wow, your wife is a big fan of Oz Academy, which puts her even
ahead of me.
Even higher in my book.
By the way, they according to Cage Match, they claim 999 fans for this show. My big thing about this show was like, oh man, it feels so good to have like a big show again, like with all the lights and the pomp and circumstance. It sounded loud in the building. That was
and the crowd clearly ignoring the sort of general rule to don't yell.
Yes,
because there were quite a few yells, but yeah, it did feel good. I mean, this show and that big ice ribbon show a month ago, whenever that was. Those have really been the two shows in the past few months that I've watched and I've been like, this is a big show. It feels big. There's lots of fans, lots of things are happening. And it's so exciting to experience and be like, this is what it was like to enjoy a big show.
Yes, this felt nice. Felt like old times. The second match, Asuka and Hiragi Kurumi versus Itsuki Aoki and Rina Yamashita. Asuka pinned Yamashita with a moonsault. I thought this was very good, especially the Asuka Yamashita interactions.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun match for good wrestlers that I enjoy watching. Don't have much more to say about it than that, but an enjoyable match and a solid undercard match.
Just wait. We're going to have a lot to say about the main event, so just stick with us. Sakurahirota versus Yoshiko. So they come out, and Hirota is dressed like Yoshiko, which is funny. And then Yoshiko wins with a lariat in about 10 seconds. Then Hirota cuts a promo, they restart the match, and they do just like a classic kind of back and forth match. But Yoshiko ultimately walks away victorious nonetheless.
Yeah, so this Hirota match was like a lot of Hirota matches in the past. She dressed up like Yoshiko. Very funny. But, sometimes I feel like with these, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. It's sort of a feeling of if you've seen one, you've seen them all. An enjoyable match, but, not one that I think is going to stick out in my brain past, a few more weeks probably.
A few more weeks. Wow, that's a few more days. I'll be stunned if I think about this again. After today, really. All right, next up, the Blast Queen title, 8-woman elimination tag team Super Plasma Blast Deathmatch. Aja Kong, Hiroya Matsumoto, the Blast Queen champion, Kaori Yoneyama, and Yu versus the Mission K4 team of Akino, Kaho Kobayashi, Kakeru Sekaguchi, and Sonoko Kato. Oh, Matsumoto won. She retained the title.
Yes, it turned into a individual match after a certain point, which I briefly didn't understand what was going on for about 3 minutes, and then I caught on. I like this. Last year they had the Blast death match as the main event with Ozaki and Matsumoto. I think that was a stronger Blast match. I thought it was a little bit more exciting. This one I enjoyed. Look, I always enjoy these Blast death matches just because they're so out of the ordinary. I mean, they happen really at most maybe 2 or 3 times a year. I think this is the second one that's happened this year after that one that was in 01 that we covered on, I think, one of our first episodes that we ever did of this podcast. I enjoyed it, but it didn't reach, I think I had very high expectations based on the death match from last year. It didn't quite reach those, but a match I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I was like really pumped for this. I love these Blast Queen matches. And it did not live up to what I wanted it to. But it was still fun. Do you think the buzzer is real? Like, they're not really hitting a button, right? It's a light cue.
Well, I think the buzzer is real. I think it turns it on and off to make sure that someone doesn't, if you kick the bat or something accidentally, it doesn't explode and sort of ruin the bit of it.
I just think somebody else is turning it on.
I don't think it cues the siren or the horn or whatever you would call it. But I think it is a thing where it's like, okay, we need this thing to be on, turn it on. Okay, now hit the siren so that we can use it. Yeah,
I just don't think whatever they do when they hit the turnbuckle or the ring post, I don't think that does anything. That's my take. I think somebody else controls it.
So it would have to be someone else at ringside who would be watching it and hit it at the same time that the buzzer goes off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that way, if you think about it, it is controlling when the bat turns on and off. Because if they don't hit it, whoever's controlling it isn't going to hit the button.
Okay, I hate this. I hate this so much. I wish I'd never said anything. I wish I just stayed quiet.
Proving you wrong again.
No, false. All right, the main event of the show and of this podcast, the Oz Academy openweight title match. Mayumi Ozaki defeated Saori Ano, retained the title with a dragon suplex. So go. I'll let you go, Taylor.
No, I want you to go first.
All right. Look, I don't like these matches. I think everybody knows that. I've been very clear that, like, I don't get it. I was raised on, like, a very specific type of wrestling, which is, like, 80s Southern wrestling, and that's what I like. And everything else kind of stems from that, of my own views about things. So I try to separate and be like, okay, in this world, like, okay, in Stardom, for example, they will like push the ref and nothing happens to him, right? And I'm like, okay, I accept that because that's what happens in the Stardom universe. That's fine. And I've come to be like okay with that. In this promotion, you can just do whatever the fuck you want and nobody does anything about it. Except the one time the ref gave a 5 count when they were doing the hanging spot over the top ropes and Ozaki let go, and I was like, why? Why is this the tipping point for the ref, and why did Ozaki let go? I mean, because literally the first part of this match is just like 5 people beating the hell out of Ano, and nobody comes out to help her. The ref doesn't care. So yeah, that is hard for me to get. And then like you do the blood so early in the match that I feel like it kind of loses its effect. By the time you get to the end, she just has like this kind of small bit of a dried blood on her face by the end of the match. And you have like some nice comebacks, I thought, which I liked, but for them to beat the piss out of her and then, I mean, literally like just smash her over the head with chairs, hang her, carry her, pull her around on a dog chain, and then she loses? It's just like, fuck. I don't know. It just wasn't satisfying for me. That's all.
All right. Well,
I mean, look, there was a lot I liked about it. Ano is great in this match. She was great. I thought Ozaki was great. So there was a lot that they did that I enjoyed, and I got into some of the comebacks. But, like, I just don't understand. I don't understand what is happening and why it's happening. This is what I want you to tell me. Why can they do whatever they want? Why does nobody come out and help her? And why do they get, like, in wrestling, the bad guys torture the good guys, and then the good guys come back and win. But she just lost. Is she going to win next month?
All right. Well, so the whole thing is, I guess on its face, they are Seki-gun, Ozaki-gun, whatever you want to call them. They are the home army of this promotion.
Sure, I got that.
So they are really running things, and the reason they can do it is it's really their promotion, and they set the rules. I mean, that's sort of the way.
So Oz Academy is basically NWO sold out.
Sure.
For all my friends who remember the sold out pay-per-view.
Yes, of course, the legendary.
Yes.
The reason there is a specific reason. No one came out to help Sayori because she's part of Seki-gun. That's the whole part. The storyline of this was sort of Seki-gun versus Seki-gun because they're both in the same group. Sayori wanted a title shot, and there was some back and forth. And there was some question about whether she would lose and be kicked out of the group, or she would win and something else would happen, or she'd start her own group or something like that. But the reason no one came out to help her is because it's all sort of an inter-faction battle going on. So you're not going to get Aja Kong coming out to help her because they've fought in the past and they don't like each other. So that is sort of the specific reason why no one's coming out to help her. Although really, no one really ever comes out to help any of the baby faces in this promotion. So it is a bit, different. I do sort of agree with you on, I thought that the result should go the other way. Now, I don't really know all that. I haven't looked into it that deeply about the drawing, who draws. I mean, Ozaki is the star of this promotion. It's her promotion. She's been the head of it for however many years. So there is a question of whether they're just like, well, we know that we draw with Ozaki at the top, so we'll just keep the title on Ozaki. I don't know. Maybe Sayori, who is technically a freelancer, is leaving and going somewhere else. I don't know if that's the case. I also thought that she should have won. It didn't happen. But I guess I have really sort of, the first few times I did watch Oz Academy years ago, I sort of had the same thought where I was like, why is there's all this interference why is this going on? It doesn't make any sense. But it just sort of is. I don't know exactly what it was, but it just sort of clicked at some point that it's like, this is the world that this company operates in. And, this interference happens, but it's always sort of the same, it's kept to just these matches, and it's always the same. The rules are always the same, that they have Mio Shirai, their own ref, who's part of the group. And sort of that's the rules of this universe, is that if you face off against someone from Sekigun, you're going to be fighting multiple people because they're going to, run into the ring, and police is going to be there, and they're going to use chairs and chains and all of these different things. And that's just sort of the universe. So I think internally, I've sort of adjusted my watching to that. I absolutely love this match from even before the match started, with Sayori coming out in the black robe. And then when she was introduced, whipping it off to reveal an all-white ensemble, I thought was a really cool visual image. Then, of course, very early on, she got busted open, so she's bleeding all over this all-white outfit, which was another sort of cool visual. I thought the comeback spots were really well-timed. The first one that happened, they were on the ramp, and she started the comeback, and I was like, this is it. The comeback's happening. And like 2 minutes later, she was back having the shit beat out of her again. And I was like, well, I guess they tricked me there. I just thought it was super fun. Bloody, very hard hitting. I mean, so many hits with the chain, back fists and things like that I really loved it. I went 4 3/4 stars. I would have liked to see Sayori win. Didn't happen. But other than that, I just thought it was awesome, super fun, and not like any other match, really, that you will see in Joshi wrestling, or really any wrestling this year, or maybe any year outside of other Oz Academy matches.
All right. Well, I am relatively new to the promotion. Haven't watched it a ton. This is certainly the most I've enjoyed an Oz Academy main event. How about that?
Great.
So, it got that going for me. But yeah, it's so different from what I'm used to and what I normally like that, okay. So Ozaki presumably has been on top of this promotion most of its existence based on what you were saying earlier.
Correct.
But I guess that's what is really hard for me, is that's the home group, the home army. But somebody has to beat them at some point. Someone has to make them pay for their cheating ways.
Well, and they do. It does happen, at shows a lot of times at these big shows. People, they will lose. Now they often come back and win them. Ozaki hasn't held the title for the last, 10 years or something like that. She does lose it, but she's always sort of a force in the picture of, this is the top of the company. And, I'm sort of she is the sort of top star in the company. I think it would have been interesting to see what Sayori would have done as the top of the company. But as I said, she is technically a freelancer. I don't know if there's plans for her to go somewhere else, or if they're worried that she would win and then go somewhere else or something like that. I don't know if there's outstanding circumstances there, or if it's just that they feel that, they drew, I don't know what restrictions were at this point in Japan. They drew essentially, or they announced they drew 1,000 fans, which if they were still at 50% capacity for the building, I think is pretty good. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, or maybe I'm not remembering correctly. But maybe they're just like, she draws. We know what we know what Ozaki will draw. She's been very consistent. I mean, she's been around for many, many years. So maybe they're just like, hey, that's, we're comfortable keeping the title on her and people keep coming to the shows, and that's fine. It may just sort of be a safety thing. I don't know about that because I haven't looked too much into the drawing patterns of Oz Academy, but yeah.
At the start of the match, I was assuming Anna was going to win the match. I was unspoiled even just now recently watching it. So I was like expecting her to win. And when she lost, I thought, which I know that this has been the talk for a long time, but it's like she's kind of like a perfect fit for Donna Del Mondo, I think. Of like she has that like ass kicker vibe to her for me. I don't know. I think she would fit in, but I assume at this point, since she's been freelance so long, that's not what's happening. Also, I want to, I appreciate that people hate that every time somebody goes freelance, everyone is like, oh, I bet they're going to Stardom. And I don't want to see Stardom, hoover everyone up for sure. But it's just like trying to think of the possibilities. Like when she lost, I thought, okay, that's still a possibility.
Yeah, and she lost, and I thought, okay, maybe they throw her out of the group, and maybe she is going to start it. But it didn't seem like that was the end point of that. It seemed like it seemed to me, I don't speak fluent Japanese, so I didn't catch it all. It seemed to me as if she sort of the end point was, okay, now you fought against us, and now come on back and be in the group. She did pose with them at the end when they were taking pictures and things like that. So it didn't seem to be an outward story of you're out of the group that would then lead to her disappearing from the promotion and showing up in Stardom or something like that.
Yes, I agree with that. That makes sense. Okay, any other thoughts about that Oz show?
No, I would say, check it out. Like Mayu Iwatani would say, check it out.
Check it out.
Check it out. And see, if you've never watched, I would say, Aaron, I think you could probably agree with this to say it's different than most other Joshi that you'll watch.
Absolutely. And you may watch it and be like, oh, wait, this really like speaks to me, and you may really enjoy it. So it's worth checking out. Absolutely.
Yeah, but either way, it's going to be something. It's something different. It's a little bit of change of pace, especially if you've been watching all of the 5-star Grand Prix, which was good, but all sort of the same style. Have a change of style. Yeah,
I sat down to watch this after I'd watched a ton of 5-star, and it was like very refreshing. So I liked the show. The main event didn't hit the way it did for Taylor. Okay, next show, Diana's show from August 30th. This just aired on the 11th, so it's still pretty recently available. A great show, in my opinion. Madeline versus Nanami. In the opening match, Nanami won with a flash pin. Just a fun little opening match.
Yeah, I think Madeline is really good. She had a match against Sareee on the September 13th Diana show that was super fun. She's sort of a younger wrestler who I think is exciting and on the way up.
Then we saw the aforementioned Sareee taking on Nagisa Nozaki. They went to a 10-minute draw. I just thought this was excellent. I was happy to see Sareee again.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I wasn't like blown away by the match. I thought it was a good match, but I think it was just so refreshing to see Sareee back and be like, oh yeah, she's very good. Because even in this match that I wasn't like, whoa, the most amazing match I've ever seen, you remember why, she was so heralded last year. Her offense looks so good. It looks tough, and every move she makes looks hard hitting and things like that. So it was really great to see her back. I hope that maybe down the line they do a rematch along with a longer time limit, so they don't go to a time limit draw, because I think that could really be a really, really great match.
Next up was a tag title match. Kaoru Ito.
Well. Next up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I completely just skipped the next match. I don't even have it in my notes. Wow. Really outed myself here. Fuck.
Yeah. Sorry. Next up was the Queen Elizabeth title match. Sakurahirota was the title holder coming into the match, and she ended up losing that title to Jaguar Yokota. It was a match. As we said, it was a Hirota match. A lot of her sort of traditional comedy in it. Happy to see Jaguar win the title. I still don't quite understand what the title is. So we'll see. But now Jaguar has it. I'm assuming we'll see it defended more often because she's obviously on, involved in the promotion and on, I think, every show.
I was thinking as I looked at these notes, why were there only 4 matches on this show? There weren't, Aaron. There were 5. I didn't watch it. I'm sorry. Just, only so much time on this planet. The tag title match, though, came after that. Kaoru Ito and Tomoko Watanabe defending their titles against Haruka Umesaki and Miyuki Takase. And the Luminous team wins. Takase rolled up Kaoru Ito. I thought this was great. I went 4 stars on this.
I did as well. I thought it was super fun. The sort of veteran team, not sort of the veteran team, the veteran team behaving in sort of a bring it on mode. And I think that Umesaki and Takase are a super fun team. I'm really glad they won. And actually, the whole sort of feeling of me, sort of the general feeling after the show is, wow, what an exciting sort of time for Diana. Sareee is back for who knows how long. She is having matches. She has another match coming up, which we'll talk about shortly. And now this great young team that I really like has won the tag titles, and as we'll talk about in a second, a big title change in the main event, which is really exciting. So this feels like a promotion with a lot of momentum.
Yeah, this to me was just like a perfect example of a match you can do when 2 of the people are not great workers, I'll say, who can't really move very much. Takase and Umesaki just worked their asses off, sold like crazy. Takase, man, that double foot stop she took with basically 100% of the weight right on her chest looked miserable, but I just thought they did a great job.
Yeah, and Takase is someone, we've talked about her a number of times, but she is really sort of the unheralded. Obviously, people who follow Joshi a lot know a lot about her, are big fans, but she's someone who hasn't yet sort of broken out of the sort of Joshi bubble into the mainstream bubble the way that someone like Sareee did last year, or people like that do, where the larger wrestling world knows about them, someone like Io Shirai from many years ago. And I think that when, she gets a little bit more under her belt and she breaks through, I think she is going to be a big, big star.
I agree. Big fan of Takase. And as you suggested in the main event, the Diana World title, Ayako Sato defending against Asuka, and Asuka wins. Another match that I thought was really good. I also went 4 stars on this. It just, to me, if you listen to the show, you know what I like. It felt like a fight. It was fast-paced. They both had urgency. It's just exactly what I want out of a wrestling match.
Yeah, good match. I'm really excited to see Asuka holding this title. I think that they could do a lot of really fun things with this. And as I've mentioned before, I think Asuka is someone, smart promotions should try and bring her in because she's young and already very talented and, currently is officially a freelancer. So it's very smart to me for Diana, who's now started doing these YouTube, they're now doing these YouTube streams pretty much every weekend, putting up these shows for free, to now have sort of one of the hot commodities of Joshi as their title holder. I think just continues this momentum that they've built over the last few months.
All right, well, that's the Diana show. I think that'll take us into the Spark Note section. Of course, we're going very long on this episode thus far, so I'll probably go short on my part on Spark Notes. But you want to tell us about some of the other shows that have been going on?
Yeah, so I'll just run through these. Some of them I've seen, but some of them I have not. ActWres Girl'z had their their September 16th show, which had that number 1 contenders match, Misa Matsui and Kakeru Sakaguchi. That is airing on Nico on September 25th, so I haven't seen that yet, but that will be coming up. I'll probably mention it again next episode. Wave had a Korakuen show on September 18th. That was Hiroe's retirement, long-awaited retirement, which finally happened. Actually, Sareee was on that show, tagging with Hibiki. which is fun. Boss to Mami, the team of Mio Momono and Yumi Oka, winning the tag titles. That's the big news coming out of that show. They defeated Sakurahirota and Yuki Miyazaki. Boss to Mami, a super fun team. Now that Mio's back, glad to see them reforming and winning the titles. ChocoPro has been moving along in season 3. Not a lot of big stories yet. They did have Masa Takanashi's 17th anniversary show, which was a lot of fun. And they have quite a number of shows coming up, which we'll talk about in the upcoming shows section. Ice Ribbon had 2 shows, one on September 13th, and actually one that's coming up in a few hours on the 20th. Haragi Kurumi and Mochi Miyagi successfully defending their titles against the Fujitas. A last-minute replacement of Minoru Fujita meant he teamed with Akane Fujita. They lost that tag title match, so Kurumi and Miyagi retained. And then the Ice Ribbon show, which has not happened as of the time we're recording this, is their big show with the Fantastic Ice title match between Risa, Sarah, and Shuri, and the Infinity title match between Suzu Suzuki and Sakushi. SEAdLINNNG had a show on September 14th. To my knowledge, it didn't make tape. Someone tell me if I'm wrong because I want to see the show. It had a non-title singles match between Yoshiko and Sareee, getting ready for their title match coming up. And it had the Best Friends versus Max Voltage #1 contender match for the tag titles. The Best Friends coming away victorious, so they will be challenging Hiroyo Matsumoto and Yoshiko somewhere down the line for the tag titles. Marvelous had the Rin Katakura return show on September 11th, so she is back and has already done a number of matches, including she was on the Wave Korakuen show as well, so very excited to have her back. Tokyo Joshi had 2 minor shows on the 12th and 13th. The big news out of that is the team of B-Star, Mirai Mayumi and Suzume, challenging the champions Rika Tatsumi and Miyu Watanabe for the tag titles on the upcoming show on the 21st. And finally, Oz Academy had another show on September 6th, where Akino and Sonoko Kato successfully defended their tag titles against Kaori Yonayama and Yu.
I guess it's my job to talk about the other Stardom shows, but I'll just say this. Here are the 2 matches you should go watch. Ozumi versus Shuri from the 9/12 show. Julia versus Tom from the 9/13 show. That's it. It's a big, long tournament. I have a match guide. If you look on my Twitter account, Aaron Like the Car, my pinned tweet, you can see all the other matches that I thought were worth watching. But, nothing of note really happened since they were all tournament shows. So, okay. We're going to take some questions here. So I should have read these before and thought about answers to them. Taylor, I'll start with you. Who is the greatest Joshi wrestler right now, and why is it Mei Suruga? This is from Paul.
Paul over at Voices of Wrestling. I also realized I put these in our sort of show document and realized I also didn't think about them as I was facing them, which I should have done. Mei Suruga has been very good. Who is the greatest Joshi wrestler right now? Oh, geez. I mean, I always sort of go back to my favorites of, Arisa Nakajima, because I think that she can have great matches. I don't know. That's very tough. I think there's a lot of contenders, but I think that the strange scheduling of the past few months has made it sort of hard. There's usually by this point in the year, one wrestler who really sticks out, at least in my mind. Last year it was Sareee after she had that series of great matches with Mako and Chihiro in Sendai Girls. There hasn't really, I think, been that person in Joshi this year. I mean, ChocoPro has had Yuna Mizumori, who's had a great string of matches. I think there's a lot of contenders, but interesting to see if over the last few months, now that we've sort of returned to a sort of normal, if someone's able to pull away and have a number of good matches and really claim stake to greatest Joshi wrestler right now.
It was a great answer, Taylor. I mean, Momo Watanabe is my favorite wrestler in the world, not just my favorite Joshi wrestler, but I really can't make an argument that she's had that level of year. This year, definitely you talked about Sareee, who it's also hard to make that argument because she missed most of the year. Fujimoto is one that I really like a lot. I would put her up toward the top. Asuka. Did you talk about Asuka?
Oh, no, I didn't even. I mean, Asuka could definitely be up there. You're totally right.
Asuka is one that I would certainly. And then, this is a boring answer, but Mayu Iwatani is also one of the best in the world. So those are some of my thoughts. Who's the best tag team in Joshi? And why is it Boss to Mammy? This is from Ice Age Coming. Is this from the VOW Discord?
This is in the VOW Discord, yes.
The which channel? The JBA channel or the Joshi channel?
The Joshi channel.
Okay.
I posted the sort of call for questions in both.
Okay.
So, well, my answer is, I mean, I'm always partial to Best Friends. I think it's two great singles wrestlers in Arisa Nakajima and Tsukasa Fujimoto, who are very good. And from what I just said, we'll have an opportunity to prove it when they have the tag title match in SEAdLINNG coming up. Although Boss to Mammy was very good before Mio got injured, they were a ton of fun. So I am really looking forward to see more of them now that Mio has come back.
Who are my favorite tag teams? See, I really should have thought about this. Best Friends is a good pull. Beast Friends is a good one. I don't know. I don't really have any thoughts about this, Taylor. I'm sorry. I'm disappointing the fans. But I needed to think about this more. Okay, I'm just moving on.
Well, we can also say, hopefully, based on their first match, Luminous will hopefully, make a good showing. I'm looking forward to that team defending their title successfully, hopefully many times in the coming months.
I agree. What Joshi Promotions house style do you think appeals to you the best? This is a two-parter. And how much longer does Natsuko's chain need to be to take her to the next level? This is Mike CC Gladwing from the VOW Discord.
Well, I'll say that the house style that appeals to me best is SEAdLINNG. I like that it's just sort of a no-nonsense, go out there and, have a knockdown, drag-out fight. Seems to be that's sort of the house style, although also they have the variety. They have the high-speed matches, which is also something I appreciate in a promotion, which is that you can look at a card and see a variety of styles. So it's not just one certain type, They have the high speed, they have the big singles matches, they have these multi-person faction matches that have been going on. So definitely SEAdLINNG. I mean, I think SEAdLINNG, again, it seems like every year they add on these pieces that make them better and better. As to the question about how long the chain needs to be to take her to the next level, it seems like Aaron and I's answer would be it needs to be shorter.
Yes, or long enough to lock her in the locker room so that she can't come out for her matches. The Joshi promotions that most appeal to me, the SEAdLINNG like main event style. My favorite kind of matches are where two people just absolutely knock the shit out of each other. That's what I like to watch. So I think SEAdLINNG does that well. Sendai Girls often does that well in their main events. So that's what I like. And, I mean, that's kind of a classic thing in Joshi, I think, in some of the promotions. So that's why it generally appeals to me. But, yeah, I just want people to – I want everybody to be safe, but I want to believe that people are, like, really getting hurt. That's what I like to see. So, if they don't make it to if they don't make it at the 5-star GP finals, any guesses on what Stardom's big announcement is? Do they have this is from Niagara Driver in the Discord. Is there a big announcement that I'm not aware of?
I think they did. I think they sort of teased something on Twitter. or something of that. I don't know if it was that Julia announcement of Quadruple X. I don't know. Maybe it's another show that's coming up. As Aaron, as you said, there's been some rumblings of Bushiroad's regret, maybe would be the word. I don't know if maybe it would have to do with that. I don't know. It could have been, the big announcement could have been, Quadruple X is coming in. Don't know.
Yeah, or they could just be announcing an even bigger show than the Yokohama show. That's kind of what I would think as a possibility. Or something, I was going to mention this later, but I don't know if this qualifies, but what do you think about a draft coming up now, a unit draft?
See, I just don't really, I think with a unit that's going to, they're going to disband a unit. It's probably most likely going to be Tokyo Cyber Squad. I just don't see much you disband the unit, probably something major is going to happen there. And then you draft people again, like in a month. But you've already sort of I feel like the reshuffling is going to come with this disbandment of Tokyo Cyber Squad, that they don't really need a draft this year.
Yeah, but how are you going to realign the Tokyo Cyber Squad members? Obviously, there's the possibility that one of them is going to jump to Edo Tai, but what about everybody else?
Well, I think you can just have them. I mean, they could just be free for a while, and then they say, "Oh, you want to join? You want to join this faction? Sure." I mean, Riho's been in the company for a year, and she seemingly is still going around going, "Oh, maybe I could be in Queen's Quest." Oh, that sounds fun, and doing whatever she's doing. So, I mean, I don't think the draft is the only way to move the people around in the promotion.
No, but it would be fun. I mean, they didn't have one this year.
Well, sure, the draft is always fun, but
it's enjoyable. Niagara Driver continues. What do you make of their recent scheduling? 2 Korakuens a month, Osaka 80 on every month, big shows in Yokohama and Sendai coming up. Are they just catching up / dealing with COVID, or is it a shift in how they want to do things?
Well, it's a bit difficult because if it was regular times, we could see what they were drawing and we could make a determination of, is this a good idea, or, what are they doing? I think it is not having to deal with COVID. I think it's a Bushiroad thing where they want to start running shows and they want to draw fans and they want to make more money off the promotion. I guess a little bit of it could be, okay, we've dealt with this COVID thing. We have to sort of move things around, and we happen to have a lot of shows coming up that are big just because of the way scheduling works. But I think we're going to see more and more. We're going to see a bigger number of shows, and we're going to see bigger shows happening as Bushiroad tries to sort of bring Stardom to the next level.
Yeah, it seems like too much to me, frankly. But you're right. We don't know because of the fact that they can't have full houses. But they're doing Korakuens within like 10 days of each other, and it seems insane to me. I think 1 Korakuen a month is a pretty good schedule. But we'll see. They're trying to get bigger, and the whole Bushiroad thing seemed to be working early on. If Bushiroad pulls out, I think that makes everything a lot more interesting. So I guess we just don't know right now. We're going to kind of have to wait and see. All right. We also took questions on Twitter. Here's the first one. This is for you, Taylor. Is Bigfoot real? This is from Binal on Twitter.
Here's what I have to say. Could Bigfoot have been something many years ago? I guess he could have been. But I can't believe that Bigfoot would be real, because if he was real, and in the year 2020, with everything we have technology-wise and everyone being everywhere, people, there's like 10,000 people on Mount Everest every year, which used to be no one went there. It would be shocking to me that that the animal, first of all, that whatever this creature is would be sort of smart enough to avoid detection all this years, or that someone wouldn't stumble into this and be like, hey, I have a camera phone, snap a photo, here it is, look, there's proof. That's my belief.
Wow, this is not the way I expected you to go.
You thought I would say it was real?
I don't know. I just mean Come on, Tim. I think you could have been more creative with your answer, I guess is all I'm saying.
I'm not trying to be creative. I'm trying to answer the question.
Well, that's where you're going wrong.
This isn't a creative writing seminar.
We're doing an entertainment medium here.
Aaron, I respect our listeners too much to make a joke of their seriously asked questions to us.
Okay. All right. Fine. Thank you, Benall. I hope I'm pronouncing that right for the question. We got a few questions from friend of the show, Tim Dog. He asks, are Stardom and Tokyo Joshi Pro cemented as the top two promotions in Joshi, or will another one rise up to that level? If so, which one?
Well, I think that Ice Ribbon is sort of sometimes under thought of because they run a lot of shows. They draw pretty well. I mean, during regular times, they draw fairly well at Korakuen. I mean, they run so many shows. I mean, they run like 3 shows a week, seemingly every week. And they have the big shows. You know, they had the Yokohama show, which did well. Now, I don't know if they're in the top 2, but I could see them, you know, if someone like Suzu really catches on and people really get into Suzu's title reign, you know, that could be something where it goes 1-2. I mean, it is a little bit hard to break to that level because Stardom and Tokyo Joshi are backed by huge companies, which these other promotions aren't. So they have a bit more leeway to throw money at new wrestlers or issues or venues or things like that. It's a little bit easier to, you know, just say, oh, we want to run more shows because we want to make more money. Okay, well, we have the money to back that up, where some promotions, you know, running more shows might put them in the red. So I always think it's possible, you know, SEAdLINNG now with Yoshiko becoming a big star, I guess they could, you know, get big. But I think as long as Stardom and Tokyo Joshi have the backing of these big companies, they're going to have a huge advantage in terms of being at the top of the Joshi world.
Yeah, I think the money is just probably too much to overcome. But Tokyo Joshi Pro doesn't seem that invested in like being at the top of the food chain in Joshi. Like they're not signing people. I mean, they just let, you know, 2 people go who are, at least one of them is like one of the better wrestlers that they have. So they don't seem to be like, you know, really pulling people in the way that Stardom has been since they got the Bushi Road money. So I think TJPW could pretty easily be overcome if the right circumstances presented themselves. Will Nyla Rose's history with Marvelous result in AEW working with Marvelous when the pandemic ends? Tim says to him it could be mutually beneficial, and sending some of AEW's greener women to train with Chigusa and Takumi would help them tremendously.
I mean, I agree it would help them tremendously. I don't know how much of a connection Nyla Rose, I mean, she did work there for a while. I don't know if she could go to, at this point, if she could go to, you know, Brandy Rhodes and say, hey, let's send some people to this small Joshi company in Japan. I mean, certainly not now, but obviously when the pandemic ends. I think it would benefit them tremendously. I think that Chigusa has done a lot of good for a lot of visiting wrestlers, and a lot of the young wrestlers. Their track record has shown that she is an excellent trainer. I mean, at this point, with some of those greener women in AEW, I think really any additional work would probably help them beyond having the 1 or 2 matches they're having a week. So I'd like to see it. Will it happen? I don't think so. It just seems unlikely to me, even though I do think it would be helpful.
I will say Nyla went and worked Marvelous like after she signed with AEW. So there's at least some whatever, they were able to work together in that way. But yeah, we talk a ton on Everything Elite about the fact that AEW, with a lot of their lesser experienced wrestlers, could benefit greatly from a relationship with Joshi Company and a men's company to just send people to work for a bit. So I would love to see something like that. Tim also asked about Micah's performance in the tournament, but I think we covered that extensively up top. JBish137, whose idea this was, by the way, for us to take questions, which we will do going forward, I think, said, are they still running Shuri versus Mayu world title match in Osaka? They are. He comments, seems silly to do it after the 5-star instead of giving the winner the next shot. I think that's true, but they pretty often will kind of do these placeholder title shots that are obviously not in doubt. I believe they have data that shows that their matches with title matches, or their shows with title matches, draw better. So they do a lot of title matches, and this is another one. And so it is kind of silly, but I think it works for their business, and it should be a good match anyway. So it's fine with me.
Yeah, there's also the question of, we said we don't know what Shuri's deal is. If maybe she said to them, hey, in November, I'm going to leave the promotion, or they said, sign with us by November, or we'll let you go. And she said, well, I want to stay freelance. I don't know if that's the case. It might not be the case, but it seems like it's a match that will do well. It'll be a good match. So if that would be the case, or you're worried about her leaving or signing officially somewhere else, you might as well run the big match out with Mayu and get something out of it before she goes somewhere else. That might not be the case, but that would be really my only thought as to maybe another reason why they might do it now instead of giving it to Utami right away.
JBS137 also asks, why does Stardom insist on waiting days to upload a show and not airing a major show like the 5-star final live? Why do they upload match by match? Buddy, I wish I knew. I think they upload it match by match because they want to get them out as quickly as they can. I think basically you have a very small setup where, as far as I know, one guy basically translates the promos, the pre-match promos, the post-match promos, gets those put up, and then they ship out that match, they upload that, and then he moves on to the next match. It's the best I can tell. I don't know. I've just kind of become used to it, so it just is what it is. But I certainly would love to watch their shows live. I mean, they did No Peoplegate live, and then nothing since then have they done live. So I have no idea.
Yeah, and I don't know if part of it was because the whole Stardom streaming started on YouTube, and I don't know if part of it was because they didn't want to upload 2-hour videos to YouTube or something like that. And they've been on a number of streaming sites. It's very nice that they translate these promos and they put them up. But to me, what I would do if I were Stardom, I would say, we're going to stream these live, and we won't show, we won't show the promos. You won't have those. If you want the promos, we'll upload them, but it will take a couple days. But if you just want to watch if you just want to see the matches, if you want to see what happens, then we'll air them live. I mean, that seems like a fairly good, I guess, compromise on both ideas. Also, they have an English Stardom Twitter account, which is tweeting about the shows anyway. So you would think if they aired the shows live, that Twitter could tweet out at least a summation of any sort of important promo that happens. For this show, could just say, hey, in that promo, Julia said a new wrestler is coming to Donna Del Mundo. And that's all you need. I mean, that's what it's not an official account, what the unofficial DDT English account does for the Tokyo Joshi shows, which have a lot more talking in them and sort of a lot more that you need to catch on with in terms of what they're saying during the show. I mean, largely, the promos are nice, especially for the 5-star, but if you didn't watch any of those promos for the matches, I don't think there's really any match where you would go, I don't understand what's happening, because they're just tournament matches.
Yeah, and even how many promotions do we watch where we don't have English translation? So it's just like, okay, this other person came out and challenged, and they're probably going to have a match in the future. That's mostly what happens after matches. Yes, it's nice to get the finer points, but sometimes the finer points are Tom responding to Julia and saying, actually, you're the trash that floats through space. So I'm not really sure what that adds. I mean, it made me laugh, but I'm not sure that it, really changed the game for me. So yeah, it's just a weird thing. I think it's mostly stuck in, they have this one dude who does this, and he has decided to do it this way, and that's just how it's going to be. So,
yeah, and I think, if I were the promotion, I would think about, you often say, wow, a big Stardom show is coming up tomorrow, to someone who maybe hasn't watched and would be interested in watching. And they say, great, when can I watch it? And you're like, well, maybe 2 matches will be up in 2 days and then a third match, and maybe, all the matches will be up on Thursday. And if you're a new person, you're like, by Thursday, you might have 2 other shows that you really want to watch. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, never mind about that, because if I can't watch the show now, then I'll just move on and we'll do something else.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's bad for the promotion, but that's how it is. At Oscar7Mex also asks, is there any chance Natsumi and or Meena jump to any other promotions? We have discussed that, but I wanted to thank Oscar for the question. Thank everybody for the questions. We'll try to do these going forward. So we'll put out the call, a day or 2 before we record. All right, upcoming shows. The Assemble show is happening on 10/1, but we'll record again before then, won't we?
No, I think our next recording is on October 3rd.
Oh, okay. All right.
Now, here's the issue with the show is, unless I've missed something, I don't know if it's airing, when it's airing, who's airing it. I don't know if they're holding off on that to see how many tickets they can sell to the actual show itself before saying where it would be. I would assume it's a major show with this, super group of promotions. I would think some samurai would want it, or I don't know if it's because it's many promotions, if there's issues between, Oz airs on Gaora and others may air on, sometimes SEAdLINNNG airs on Samurai, if they could do it on Nico. I don't know if there's that issue, but I would think, I would hope and think they would want to air this somewhere. And I really hope it does air, because it's a big sort of, we don't know what's going to happen with this promotion, but it's a monumental show. If this promotion ends up taking off and really, doing a lot of stuff, you want this first show to be aired somewhere. But they have announced most of the card for the show. Each, as we mentioned last show, each promotion is getting sort of their own showcase match due to trying to prevent any COVID outbreaks. So it's just going to be promotional matches. Oz is sending a tag match, Mayumi Ozaki and Saori Ano versus Akino and Sonoko Kato. The ring announcer for that match will be Dynamite Kansai. Pure J is sending Leon and Raideen Hagane facing off against Manami Katsu and Mari Manji. Marvelous sending a 6-person match. This match sounds really good and I think could be the highlight of the show. Takumi Iroha, Rin Katakura, and Maria going up against Mio Momono, Makoto Shindo, and Mei Hoshizuki. Sendai Girls sending Meiko Satomura, Dash Chizako, and Yurika Oka against Chihiro Hashimoto, Manami, and Natsuho Kaneko. And SEAdLINNNG, a tag match, Yoshiko and Honori Hana against Arisa Nakajima and Riko Kaiju, with Natsuki Tayo as the special guest referee. I'm going to put up they will be announcing, I think, one more match, which is going to contain the freelancers, which is Asuka and maybe a couple other people. Once that goes up, I will be doing a written preview on Voices of Wrestling, so check that out if you're not familiar with any of those promotions. I'll be going in-depth into all of those, so check that out. Stardom is not slowing down. I figured after the 5-star, I was like, wow, the 5-star's over. What's next? A show that's happening in 2 days. The 5-star special in Osaka with a Artist of Stardom title match, Donna Del Mundo going up against Mayu Iwatani, Tam Nakano, and Starlight Kid, and a special singles match, Himika and Jungle Kiona. They have another Korakuen show on 9/28 with, as we mentioned, the big Tokyo Cyber Squad and Oedo Tai unit disband match. And then on October 3rd, the big Yokohama Cinderella show, Mayu versus Shuri for the World of Stardom title, Julia versus Tom for the Wonder of Stardom title, with also the debuting new Donna Del Mundo member. Himika and Micah versus Utami and Sayakamitani for the Goddess of Stardom title. Ozumi versus Starlight Kid for the High Speed title. And Momo versus B for the SWA title. So that is the upcoming Stardom schedule. SEAdLINNNG has their big 9/24 show headlined by Yoshiko versus Sareee. Rest of the card looks pretty fun. A good collection of wrestlers. Maya Yukihi's going to be on that show. They're going to have a 6-person semi-main. Arisa Nakajima, Tsukasa Fujimoto, and Rina Yamashita against Hiroya Matsumoto, Yu, and Ayame Sasamura. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, Tokyo Joshi has that B-Stars versus Daydream tag title match on their September 21st show, which is coming up. The semi-main is Yuka Sakazaki and Shoko Nakajima against Mizuki and Maki Ito. So 4 big stars. Looks like they're going to start getting ready for the big Yuka Mizuki title match coming up at their big show in November. Already mentioned this last show, but coming up tomorrow and the day after, Sendai Girls is running their rookie tournament. Diana has a show on the 27th. Sareee will be back facing Haruka Umasaki. That's the big match of that show. That should be really good. Hopefully that will be on their YouTube. And ChocoPro has a number of shows coming up. Their 50th show coming up on September 27th. Hard to believe that they've run 50 shows since all of this started. Also 51 on September 30th and 52 on October 2nd. So a lot of really fun stuff coming up in the world of Joshi wrestling.
And we'll talk about all or most of it, at least, right here on this show. So, yeah, we'll be back in a couple weeks. I think we've reached the end of the show. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Taylor, before we go?
I think we covered it all.
All right. Well, make sure you follow us on Twitter at JBombAudio. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Taylor's at Tay Mambo. Subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us a review on the Apple Podcast app. And if you enjoyed the show and you'd like to donate, you can go to redcircle.com/shows/jumping-bomb-audio. So that's it. See you guys.
Bye-bye.